Attorney General Jeff Sessions was in town this week. He was up at the Utah State Capitol building talking about crime. Robert, give us a sense of why we have such a high-profile person coming and a little bit about his topic.
Well, I think the Attorney General likes to travel the country and give these sort of pep talks, I think, to law enforcement people, sort of show the flag. He wanted to highlight how there's been a decrease in violent crime in particular across the country. But, and so it was sort of, it wasn't necessarily, he wasn't making any major announcements. It was more just touting the accomplishments of the administration to this point.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, crime is always an issue people care about. They want their neighborhoods to be safe. We've heard about tough on crime and all those sorts of things from Reagan to Clinton to Bush and Obama. Every president hits on how they're making your community safer. What I think is interesting is we saw an uptick in violent crime just briefly for a couple of years. It's going back down, but I think his speech and everything else also comes at a time when we're talking about much broader prison reform, crime reform, how we deal with certain issues. The economy is good right now. So I think there's a lot of factors that are into it. But yes, violent crime is down, and people always like to tout that.
Nichole, are we seeing a little preview for campaign themes with this? I mean, people talk about crime in the country. Is that why we're kind of talking about this?
I mean, it's an evergreen, perennial issue that people may not be forefront in people's minds as they're going to the polls in November, but it's always something that people care about. I think it's interesting, like you were saying earlier, that President Trump is depicting cities as, crime-ridden and full of violence in the streets, and Jeff Sessions is traveling the country saying everything's fine, crime's going down, we're all doing good, keep up the good work, law enforcement.
Right. The messaging from the president is American carnage. He's talking about MS-13 gangs hacking people to death in our streets, and how we need to be tougher on crime, and and you get just the opposite message from his attorney general. Although I think Trump has also said that he doesn't have an attorney general, and he may not be attorney general for much longer. But for now, he's the attorney general, and his message is very positive. I guess it doesn't serve you well to go out and speak to a group of law enforcement officials and talk about how they're doing a lousy job and crime's on the rise. So.
Okay, I want to see how some of these things we're talking about on the Hinckley report and on the Web Extra, how it's impacting youth voters. Let's just take just a moment. Glenn, you did a story on it recently. Mm-hmm. How are the youth of the state of Utah, those will be voting sometimes for the first time, but just very young, how are they reacting to all of this news?
It kind of depends where you talk with them, honestly. If you are on a college campus, sometimes they seem a little bit more involved. They're paying attention a little bit closer, but we also get a lot of, well, I haven't really looked into it. I don't know what I'll think. And, some recent polls have come out that maybe only 26% say they're eager to get out there and vote. But, a lot of those issues are affecting people. The economy, college tuition, all of these issues end up impacting people. I mean, I think everybody wants to see high voter turnout because we want to know how the entire country is feeling, not just a select few. But I also think, as we've talked about before, that young people tend to get pull back from politics, especially when it gets really dirty. And I think that they're more turned off quickly by dirty politics and some of the problems that we see than other age groups. But I don't know. It's tough to measure it because a lot of people, I think, don't poll young people. But after 2016, I think everyone saw that their vote matters, that elections can be close. And it will be interesting. This is the first real test to see if all this effort of I need to have my voice heard really works.
Yeah.
As a resident young person, Nichole, what do you
Well, younger people, that 18 to 29 age group has, I think, historically been one of the lowest turnout age groups. The Utah legislature this year passed a bill that allows 17-year-olds to pre-register, and 17-year-olds actually could vote in the primary earlier this summer as long as they turned 18 before Election Day. So it's a good step that the state has taken. I know other states are passing laws that allow 16-year-olds even to pre-register to vote, which is a good step to get them in the door and keep them involved and keep that momentum going.
Absolutely right.
I mean, we read so much about how the youth are getting involved, especially after the mass shootings, and we saw the Florida teens, the Florida high school students become public figures, advocating people to get involved in the process. And if these numbers that we're seeing, if only 1 in 4 basically are actually eager to vote, that's not going to change the world like we thought they might. It's really frustrating. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and after those shootings, they were talking about school walkouts, and I said walking out is fine, but go register these seniors to vote. And because if if they're young people, I think, and this is I'm going to sound like, you know, some guy screaming at people to get off the lawn, but young people are at one hand the most idealistic. They think they can change the world, but also the most cynical because they've seen that they think the system doesn't work and won't work for them. And so I think you've got to give them a reason to hope for something better. And I think we saw President Obama rally young people because he was promising hope and change, but I think they've kind of lost the luster of that. And so hopefully they get it back in November.
Yeah, let's get it back. Thank you for
Get
your
it back.
comments on that. Thank you for your insights.